Welcome, and thank you for joining me tonight. You're about to drift into the ancient world, a world of wars and empires, of bronze and brine, of slow tides and slower suffering. Our journey will take us across the vast and silent waters of the Roman seas, where unseen labor built the ambitions of emperors, and where silence was broken only by the creaking of timber and the soft rhythm of paddles slicing through the deep. In the next 2 hours, we'll explore for quiet chapters of Roman history. We'll begin in the belly of a Roman galley, where life was grueling, repetitive, and profoundly physical. From there, we'll turn our gaze to the curious life of Emperor Nero, at once celebrated and reviled, his tale as theatrical as it is tragic. Then, we line slip beneath the surface of the Aegean Sea to uncover a shipwreck lost for millennia and the enigmatic device it carried. And finally, we'll recline beside the elite, where feasting was performance and power was plated in silver. So, get comfortable, let your breath slow, let the day dissolve, and prepare to drift, gently, into history. Imagine yourself seated on a narrow, wooden bench, your bare legs brushing against the sun-bleached grain. The bench is not cushioned, it never was. The air is thick with the scent of salt and sweat, damp wood and old rope. This is your world now, the hold of a Roman galley, far from the glamour of marble forums or imperial halls. You are an oarsman, one of hundreds, not a sailor, not a warrior, a rower. Your job is simple and endless. Pull, rest, pull, rest. There is no real speaking down here. Only grunts, occasional coughs, and the steady beat of a drum that governs your every move. The galley, narrow and long, stretches out like a spine made of pine and olive wood. Above you, light filters down through tiny gaps between deck planks thin as slivers. You hear the boots of Roman officers pacing above, their lives impossibly distant. Their shadows flicker across the beams like ghosts. Every morning begins the same, a signal horn, a bowl of something warm, though what exactly, you're never sure. Barley mash, often sour, occasionally flavored with fish brine, occasionally not. You eat quickly, if you eat at all, then you take your place, and you row. Your arms ache, but they are expected to ache. Your back burns, but no one mentions it. Blisters form, then burst, then harden. The rowing oar is not smooth. It is splintered with the stories of men before you, men whose names were never recorded. You feel the heat build throughout the day. It doesn't simply touch your skin. It nests in the ship, warming the wood until it steams beneath your thighs. The air becomes hard to breathe. Some days, it's so still the sweat clings to your skin without ever evaporating. There is no shade, not where you sit. The officers have canvas awnings. You have nothing but your tunic, which is damp from both sea spray and your own perspiration. Your hands grip the oar's shaft, and every movement feels the same. Pull, breathe, push, rest, over and over. Hours stretch into each other, indistinguishable. When storms come, and they do, you do not stop rowing. The sea swells beneath you, and the galley groans like a wounded animal. Rain hammers the upper decks, but it only trickles down to you in erratic drips. The steersman shouts. The officers bark orders in Latin. You understand just enough to know when to duck, when to brace, when to keep moving. The worst part isn't the storms, though, it's the calm. Days when the sea goes still and the wind dies. The sails hang like wilted cloth, and all movement depends on you. Hour after hour of slow, dragging progress through motionless blue. Time becomes a spiral. The drumbeat slows but never stops. And in the silence, you think, though you try not to. Thinking leads to remembering. Remembering leads to regret. Punishments aboard are swift and deliberate. A man who slacks in his rowing may find himself lashed, though rarely to injury. Pain is a tool, not a punishment. The threat of being chained is always present, but more often, discipline is enforced by the watchful eyes of fellow rowers. If you fail, they suffer, and so the system maintains itself. You might imagine these men were all slaves. Some were, but many were not. Some were citizens paying off debts. Others were prisoners of war, sentenced to years at the oars. Some even volunteered, drawn by the promise of a steady wage and meals however meager. When the galley reaches port, your work does not end. You unload supplies, you repair the ship's hull, you wait under the sun while officers drink wine and send messages. You may see land, but you do not walk upon it. At night, sleep comes quickly, but not gently. You lie in your hammock if you're lucky enough to have one, or directly on the planks. The ship rocks beneath you. The sea creaks like a living thing. Your arms twitch in your sleep, still rowing in your dreams. The scent of tar and rope never leaves your nose. Sometimes, you wake unsure of where you are. Sometimes, you don't wake at all. Such is life on a Roman galley. Relentless, repetitive, anonymous. You were not born to glory. You rode in its shadow, and now we turn from the oars below deck to the marbled quarters above. From nameless men in the dark to a man who thought himself divine. Now, allow your mind to drift upward, above the oars and the sweating backs of the galley slaves. Past the creaking beams and open sky, past the seagulls that circle the harbor. Drift inland across hills dotted with olive groves, through villas and roads built in perfect Roman symmetry until we arrive at the palatial heart of the empire, where one young boy would grow into a figure both adored and despised. His name was Lucius Domitius Ahenobarbus, but history remembers him as Nero. He was born in 37 CE, into a family already woven into the intricate net of Roman politics. His mother, Agrippina the Younger, was a descendant of Augustus himself, ambitious, calculating, and determined to see her son rise. His father, a man of little consequence, died when Nero was still a child, and so it was his mother who steered his future, slowly drawing him closer to the imperial court. Rome at this time was a strange mixture of splendor and unease. The empire stretched wide, but trust in its leaders was thin. Caligula's madness had left a bitter memory. His successor, Claudius, was scholarly and awkward, less dangerous, but no less manipulated by those around him. And it was Claudius, married to Agrippina, who adopted young Nero as his son. Imagine the boy, perhaps 11 or 12, sitting silently as tutors recited long passages of Homer and Virgil. His education was excellent rhetoric, music, law, Greek philosophy. He loved the lyre, loved poetry, perhaps more than he loved ruling. But fate and his mother had other plans. At 17, Nero became emperor. To the public, he was charming and youthful. A fresh face after years of scheming shadows. His first years were surprisingly peaceful, guided by the philosopher Seneca and the military commander Burrus. Nero's Rome was stable, even benevolent. He lowered taxes, he promoted public entertainment. He walked through the streets dressed simply, shaking hands. The people adored him, but behind the curtains, the empire was shifting. The quiet influence of his mother, once his greatest asset, began to feel suffocating. Agrippina had worked tirelessly to secure his crown, but now, she expected control. She intruded upon decisions, vetoed advisors, and even tried to assert her presence in state affairs. Nero grew resentful. He sought independence. He sought freedom. The rumors say he had her killed, though the exact details remain murky. A shipwreck staged as an accident, a failed attempt, then finally, a direct order. Agrippina, stabbed in her villa, her final words calm and composed. True or not, she was gone, and with her death, something in Nero changed. He distanced himself from Seneca. Burrus died. New advisors came, men of pleasure, not principle. Nero withdrew into the world he loved, performance. He sang, publicly, he acted in plays. For a Roman emperor to appear on stage was scandalous. But Nero reveled in it. He saw himself as an artist first, ruler second. The great fire of Rome came in 64 CE. It raged for days, consuming vast portions of the city. No one knows if Nero truly started the fire, but whispers spread that he watched from a tower, playing his lyre as flames danced across rooftops. Likely false, yet the image stuck. To deflect blame, he accused the Christians, an obscure and unpopular group at the time. Persecutions followed, executions, spectacle. Meanwhile, Nero built his Domus Aurea, the Golden House, a palace so vast and elaborate it shocked the Senate. There were rotating dining rooms, walls covered in gold leaf and pearls, vast gardens filled with wild animals. For Nero, it was the ultimate stage. For Rome, it was a grotesque excess. His popularity waned. The provinces grew restless. Rebellion sparked in Gaul and Judea. The Senate plotted. The army grumbled. One by one, his supporters vanished, exiled, executed, or simply fading into silence. In 68 CE, faced with open revolt and betrayal from the Praetorian Guard, Nero fled the city. He took refuge in a villa outside Rome, accompanied by a handful of loyal servants. There, as soldiers closed in, he paced, uncertain. He could not bring himself to die by his own hand. In the end, a freedman helped him. His final words were whispered, "Qualis artifex perio." What an artist dies in me. He was 30 years old. And so ends the life of Nero, not with a triumphant roar, but a quiet whimper in a borrowed house. From the darkness of a Roman galley to the dazzling light of a golden house. History, in all its forms, is never truly silent. Now, we turn our attention to the sea once more, not above it, but beneath, where lies a mystery forgotten for 2,000 years, and a machine centuries ahead of its time. Let your thoughts sink now slowly, peacefully beneath the surface of the Aegean Sea. The waters here are impossibly blue. Still, on a calm day, the sun scatters across the waves in gentle ripples. But beneath that tranquil expanse rests something forgotten, cradled in sand and coral for over 2,000 years. We are near the small Greek island of Antikythera. Remote, quiet, the kind of place you might pass without noticing, unless you were shipwrecked nearby. In the early 20th century, sponge divers working the Aegean depths stumbled upon something strange, fragments of bronze and marble, scattered across the seafloor, resting silently among the rocks. It was a shipwreck, Roman, they soon determined. A vessel that had once carried luxury cargo, sculptures, amphorae, glassware, and something else, something no one understood, a corroded, compact cluster of gears and plates. At first glance, it resembled little more than an encrusted mass, but inside, hidden beneath the calcium buildup and green bronze tarnish, were wheels, cogs, teeth, tiny inscriptions, precision. This was the Antikythera Mechanism. Imagine now the ship that once carried it, likely a merchant vessel, sailing from the eastern Mediterranean toward Rome, perhaps around 70 BCE. It was laden with treasures, artwork destined for patrician estates, scientific instruments, scrolls, goods from the intellectual heartlands of the Greek world. Perhaps even passengers of status, but something went wrong. A storm, most likely, sudden and fierce. The Mediterranean can be deceptively calm until it isn't. Wind howling through rigging, rain so heavy it flattens the waves. The ship, caught near the rocky coast, was pulled under, smashed against underwater stone, its contents scattered. The Antikythera Mechanism was preserved not because it was treasured, but because it was forgotten. For centuries, no one remembered it existed, until that sponge diver wearing a copper helmet and woolen suit descended in 1900. The device was unlike anything historians expected from the ancient world. Through X-rays and 3D scans, researchers would eventually discover that the mechanism was an astronomical calculator. It predicted lunar cycles, eclipses, planetary movements. It tracked the 4-year Olympiad cycle. It may have even accounted for irregularities in the Moon's orbit using a form of differential gearing. In simpler terms, it was a computer, made of bronze, built before the birth of Christ, and yet so much remains unknown. Who made it? Some suggest it was crafted by a follower of Archimedes. Others propose links to Rhodes, the island famed for its astronomers and engineers. But there is no name etched upon the frame, no user manual, only tiny inscriptions, Greek text so faint that some letters are barely visible to the eye. You can imagine it now, placed on a scholar's table, its bronze dials glinting in the lamplight. A teacher slowly turning the crank, watching as the pointers trace the heavens. A young student, perhaps, eyes wide in wonder as the universe unfolded mechanically before him. And then, the voyage. Why it was aboard that ship, we do not know. Was it a gift for a Roman noble, loot taken from a Greek city, a tool meant for a statesman, a scholar, or a collector? No record tells us. And so, the mechanism passed into legend, first buried in silt and seaweed, then brought up in salt-encrusted silence. There is something soothing about its story. It reminds us that even in an age of emperors and empire, they were still thinkers, tinkerers, dreamers, men who built machines not for war or wealth, but to understand the sky and the ship itself. It rests quietly, still partially buried. The sea has claimed much of it, but divers continue to explore its remains. Each year, fragments emerge: pottery, jewelry, marble arms broken clean at the elbow. These are the afterthoughts of a vanished world. Tonight, as you breathe softly, think of the deep, the way sound fades beneath the waves, the slow shifting of currents, the secrets that lie in darkness, waiting to be discovered not with force, but with patience. And now, we rise once more to the surface and beyond, not to the hard benches of galleys, nor to golden palaces, but to velvet cushions and perfumed banquets. It is time to enter the world of Rome's elite, where dining was politics, and indulgence was expected. Let us leave the depths now, rise slowly from the wreckage and forgotten devices of the sea. Drift once again through the Roman countryside, olive groves, gently rustling in the breeze, red-tiled roofs soaking in the afternoon sun until we arrive at the city's edge. Here, the air is different, fragrant with oil lamps, crushed herbs, and roasted meats. A quiet murmur hums behind high stone walls, broken now and then by soft laughter or the distant strum of a lyre. We have entered the world of the Roman patricians, where every evening offers a carefully choreographed ritual of indulgence, hierarchy, and performance. To dine as a Roman elite was not simply to eat. It was to participate in a statement of identity, of power, of one's place in the order of the world. Imagine, now, a sprawling domus, a private urban residence of a wealthy senator. From the street, it offers little, plain stone walls, modest windows. But pass through the heavy wooden door, and the world opens. A shaded atrium welcomes you, sunlight falling through a central opening in the roof, illuminating the shallow pool below. Slaves wait silently, offering a rinse of perfumed water for your hands. You're ushered further inward, through a peristyle garden where songbirds chirp softly among the ivy-covered columns. Fountains murmur, statues of mythic gods gaze down, and then the triclinium. This is the dining room, prepared for tonight's convivium, or feast. 3 couches are arranged in a U-shape around a low table. Each guest reclines on their left side, propped by embroidered cushions. Reclining to eat was considered not just fashionable, but civilized. Only children, women in most cases, and the lower classes sat while eating. You take your place assigned. Of course, seating is based not on friendship, but rank. The host reclines near the center. His most important guest is left. Lesser guests are arranged outward from there. Slaves bring the first course: eggs, olives, oysters, perhaps small birds or stuffed dormice, delicately spiced. The wine is already flowing, diluted with water, as was the custom. Drinking unmixed wine was seen as barbaric. Conversation is careful, like a slow game. No politics during the appetizers. Light, amusing topics only. The host smiles, watches, calculates. Every word, every gesture is part of a larger performance. He offers compliments, recalls mutual friends, shares a clever quote from Virgil, just enough to show refinement, not arrogance. As the evening deepens, so does the menu. Roasted meats, now wild boar, flamingo, or perhaps peacock, depending on how extravagant the host wishes to appear. Everything is seasoned with garum, a fermented fish sauce prized across the empire. For us, Perhaps a bit strong, but to Roman palates, rich and essential. Entertainment arrives in brief waves. A poet recites verses, a slave performs a brief pantomime. A musician plays a haunting tune on the aloes, a double-piped wind instrument. The laughter rises, then fades. Somewhere, out of view, other slaves prepare the next course: honey cakes, figs, dates stuffed with nuts, and more wine. And then, philosophy. As the night wears on, conversation deepens. One guest references Plato, another counters with Stoic wisdom. A mild debate ensues, not heated, but measured. This was not unusual. In elite Roman circles, a proper convivium was expected to nourish not just the body, but the mind. The host remains attentive. His reputation depends not only on his wealth, but on his ability to guide the evening, to flatter without seeming false, to impress without appearing boastful. A successful dinner could mean a new political ally, or a future son-in-law. A poor one might spread whispers across the city by morning. Now, you might wonder what of the others, the cooks who toiled in the kitchen's heat, the slaves who stood perfectly still, waiting to refill a cup or clear a plate, the wives and daughters, sometimes absent, sometimes present but silent. They are here, too, always, behind the curtains. In the quiet, even within luxury, there were boundaries. Gender, class, citizenship all carved into the fabric of the feast. A slave might smell the roasted lamb, but never taste it. A guest might recline on silk, while her serving girl knelt on stone. But tonight, we linger in the middle. On the couch, cup in hand, the hum of Latin verse and harp strings drifting softly through the evening air. The oil lamps flicker gently. Outside, the city sleeps beneath the moon, its cobbled streets empty but for the occasional echo of a sandal on stone. And you, reclined in a space between history and dream, between garum and poetry, between empire and stillness. And now, as our journey draws to a gentle close, let the distant echoes of Rome fade slowly into the soft quiet of your present. You have felt the aching rhythm of a galley slave-s or wooden benches worn smooth by sweat and time, the sting of salt air in your lungs, the endless repetition of movement. You have walked with Nero through gilded corridors and shadowed halls, watching as ambition gave way to fear, and empire crumbled beneath a crown too heavy to bear. You descended with us beneath the calm blue waters of the Aegean, where ancient gears once ticked quietly in the hands of a forgotten genius, and now rest, rusted but remembered, as whispers of ancient science. And finally, you reclined among the patricians, half guest, half observer, as poetry and power mingled with the steam of roast meats and the fragrance of pressed oil. So many lives, so many layers, and all of it, history, silent now, but never gone. As you lie still now, perhaps already drifting, the contrast between then and now grows clearer. Your mattress holds you gently, no rough plank beneath your ribs. Your room is cool or warm by choice, not by fate or wind. There is no lash of the overseer. No need to rise at dawn to haul timber or bake bread in a soot-blackened oven. No fear of arrest over careless words or whispers of betrayal at dinner. Your world is complex, yes, but tonight it is simple. You are safe, you are warm, and as the ancient world fades into shadows and dreams, your mind can rest. Let the cadence of oars, the crackle of oil lamps, the hush of the deep sea all dissolve now into silence. Soft, slow, gentle, sleep, knowing that the empire is no longer watching. The feast has ended, the ship has docked, and tomorrow is not yet written. Good night.